bridge collapsed. The mountain road washed out. All the signs are obscured by fog. Your only directions are detours. Eventually it dawns on you. Sometimes you need to get lost to discover where you're supposed to be. Welcome to Merlin's Barn.
Just come into it.
Hello, welcome back to Merlin's Barn, broadcasting once again and as always from Fort Blanket, south of the Yukon, in that large barn in Littlestown, PA. And tonight you have myself and
Matt. Nicole and Tasha are hiding upstairs.
They'll be back on for the next episode. And so what we're going to discuss tonight is Matt has some serious questions, queries, concerns about things like Volkswagen buses and why or if they should be allowed on highways. And then we'll also go into
Merlin's first 2 weeks of summer vacation.
Which we've just been sitting here discussing the fact that I'm pretty sure, honestly, I thought it was 3 weeks minimum. Although it seemed more like a month, and I'm realizing that just everything has just happened in 2 weeks. And I'm exhausted. Today was the first day I've actually had to catch up on anything.
He's had a mighty busy time.
It's been interesting. I guess that's putting it nicely. We do have people to kill, from Met Ed specifically, but we'll get into that in a little bit.
Yeah, we'll save that one for the latter half of the podcast.
Quite honestly, that could be a whole nother episode where just John and I sit here and drink and rant about Met Ed and what we want to do to them.
That could be a good one for audio guy John to be on because he was living it as well.
Yeah. No, he has very specific things and thoughts towards our friends at Met Ed.
But to back up a couple of weeks to just before you're out of school for the summer, Cody and I were driving back from Louisville, Kentucky, and we're on pulling onto Interstate 79 in West Virginia from stopping off for gas and food. And it's uphill, up the exit ramp and uphill on the highway in this portion. And I've got my big 1-ton truck and I'm pulling a 1-ton trailer behind it. And I am slowly accelerating up the on-ramp and then onto the highway. And I look in my rearview mirror and there's a air-cooled Volkswagen bus, old school bus, going up Interstate 79 in West Virginia over the hills. The speed limit on that highway is 70 miles per hour. I'm doing 55 up the on-ramp, trying to get up to speed, and I'm walking away from this bus. It's shrinking in my rearview mirror. I can't imagine how terrifying it must have been to try and drive that on that interstate.
Well, mentally inside when you're driving one of those things, you're screaming the entire time. Or you're high and you don't realize that you're about to die. You figure the amount of hippies that drove those things. I mean, my orange bus, which I miss so much, and I think I referred to it a lot in our episode a while back, Jesus Christ, You Do Exist.
The one with the nuclear symbols on it?
Yeah, the one where I just kept working on it. I was like, unfortunately, I looked like a hippie, and it looked like a hippie bus because it was an orange Volkswagen camper with rust spots and spots where the orange was a different color because that was all I could find at Napa. And then I had shoulder-length hair and mutton chop side whiskers and, well, was dressing the same back then otherwise, which was vest, pocket watch, fedora.
So you're like a well-dressed hippie. It really confused people, didn't it?
Yeah, which is why I put the nuclear hazard signs on the door because I thought that would make it look less hippie-ish, but I don't think that helped the situation at all.
You were a hipster before there were hipsters.
Possibly. I was a pre-hipster.
You're pre-hip.
I was cool and I didn't know it. Maybe. I don't know. I love that bus, though. So back on the buses. So that thing, was it an old one with like the V front and a split window on the front, or was it like a big bay window one?
I think it was a bay window. It wasn't.
Okay.
It wasn't the split window one. It wasn't.
I thought at first
back.
you were going to say that you were doing 55 and it zoomed by you, and I was going to sit there going, must have a Subaru engine in it.
Yeah. This one. I don't think this one had like the engine transplant. They weren't running like a Porsche engine in it.
Yeah, that's like. Mine had the same engine that the Porsche 914s had, which is this nice dual carbureted pancake setup. And it did pretty well. Although the terrifying thing that it did was if it was too cold out, it would suck the gas pedal down to the floor and accelerate to I think once it got to 75, I would like yank on the gas pedal and shut off the ignition because I don't want to go 90 in one of those things.
I was going to say Mach 1, but I guess it felt the same either way.
Either way, I mean, it's like you read the manual for a Volkswagen bus, and it talks about the crumple zone. You're sitting in the front of this thing with the windshield inches from your face, with the front of the vehicle inches from your feet, and and the manual talks about the 2-foot crumple zone, and I'm like, that's my 2 feet. Because there's no 2-foot crumple zone there other than my feet being crumpled in an accident.
I had a scout leader that had an ex-German military, I think it was German military, maybe Volkswagen Transporter. Mm-hmm. And he described it as the crumple zone is your knees.
Yeah. I just like the fact the manual said 2 feet, so I figured that was just my 2 feet.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
But they're just slow. I mean, mine had the big engine in it. I mean, prior to mine, they had just the regular Beetle engine in them, and couldn't get out of their own way. I mean, there were so many design flaws with the thing, but they made tons of them. I mean, it's a giant Twinkie.
Well,
A giant non-aerodynamic Twinkie that when you're going down the highway and the wind is cutting off side to side, you're just being thrown left to right, back and forth, and you don't have the power to overcome it. So you spend most of your drive hoping that you get there. And just sort of like that old ad where the guy was given the tiny car and you just hear this ee. It's sort of what's going on in the back of my head is that hamster on the wheel is screaming, trying to keep up.
It was kind of the same way in my old 1970 Jeep with its 4-cylinder engine, which I used to drive on the interstate and around the Beltway. Back when dinosaurs roamed the earth and we had a national speed limit of 55, which meant if I stood in the right lane, okay, yeah, the Jeep is going as fast as it possibly can, but I'm not being run over.
Yeah.
Like now, there's not a chance you could take, I mean, with the speed limits of being 65, 70, 75 mile per hour speed limits, it was amazing to me to see someone still driving one of those vehicles on the highway. I was like, that's crazy.
That makes me a little nervous. I mean, I think one of the scariest things I ever did, and it wasn't a bus or a Beetle, it was probably about 20, I think I've had the World War II Jeep Mortimer since 90, I've had them since 99. 2001 or 2002, I drove him up 95 to Delaware with my first wife following behind me with the flashers on in her car. And I think her Oldsmobile and I were almost killed many, many times over because even with the flashers on, people weren't expecting. And I was pushing him at like 50 the whole way. And he's just like, don't do this to me. I'm a Jeep. But yeah, that was absolutely terrifying. Now my 55 Beetle that I have that drives people crazy because it has a 70s engine in it. And I've had so many people. I had one customer give me a beautiful rebuilt 1956 engine to put into it because he's so disturbed by the 1970s engine that's in my car. And wants the right engine in there. But I will tell you, when I bought that Beetle, and for those of you who don't know, that like the 50s Beetles are really cute. They have an oval rear window on them and stuff. Mine has these turn signals that are little arms that open up from the side and light up, and nobody has any clue what they mean. It's about as effective as me putting my arm out the window, which nobody knows what that means anymore either. But that thing with its engine, I was going up. I was taking my route from like 84 to 81. So I was up in the mountains. And it's just shooting up mountainsides at 75 miles per hour, not noticing they're there. And for anybody
Nice.
who knew one of those cars and saw it, they would if you knew one, you would just know that can't have the right engine in it because it's not supposed to be doing that. So the nice thing is, when I replace the seals on that engine and pull it out, I'm putting that engine back in because I can keep up with traffic.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Nice.
But yeah, no, Volkswagen bus is terrifying. 2-foot crumple zone. Both your feet crumple.
So I
Don't
guess
like
the new generation now of a similar vehicle, I guess can be licensed in some states or titled in some states but not others. Or there's those little Japanese like kei trucks, however you pronounce it.
Yeah, K trucks.
K?
Or Kai, I don't know.
I don't know. I'm butchering it, I'm sure.
Those tiny little things that have like a 3-cylinder engine in them and stuff.
Yeah, and the reason I bring that up is there's a car lot near me that has one that they have gone ahead and put vinyl wrap on it to do the V nose of a Volkswagen.
Oh, God. There was one guy who actually shipped one from Japan and had the paint job done in Japan with the V nose and had the Volkswagen VW front emblem put on it, and it was rejected and rejected and crushed.
Oh,
So you can do it once you get it to the country and it's on your own. But if you're importing it from somewhere else, Volkswagen will notice it.
oh, okay,
And they'll kill it. Yeah, if you look up K-Trucks. So they're a little cartoon. They're like if Pixar made a tiny pickup truck or van. That's what these things are. I have yet to sit in one. I'm not totally sure if I could fit in one.
I have my doubts. Back when I was working in Afghanistan, we had one on the base there, and I tried to drive it around once, and I had to leave the door open so my knee could stick out.
Oh no! Oh no! No! Yeah, no. I might never fit in one. Then imagine fitting Henry in one.
Oh no! Just he's just going to sit in the back. He won't even lay down in the back. He'll just sit in the back.
Henry is a friend of ours who is affectionately known as the Wookiee. Big British fellow who is 6'7", and used to play rugby.
So just what you're imagining.
Yep, just what you're imagining. There's just no way he'd fit in one of these things. Now, there's a couple that I pass on my way to work, but I don't take highways on my way to work, so I think that's why why I see these things.
Are they actually like title, or are they tagged on the road?
Yeah. The thing is, we have reached the point where they are all antiques. And since they are antiques, they don't have to pass emissions, which is all of a sudden why we have tons of them in the country.
It must vary state to state, because I've seen several in West Virginia, but none on the road. But I have seen them on the road in Virginia.
Maryland, they're all over the place. I haven't seen them as much up here in PA, but once again, we live in a county that is deemed so poor we don't have to pass emissions inspections. So I don't think the random cash is floating around for people to have tiny vans and trucks to just drive around and hang their knees out of.
We don't have emissions in our county either, but that's because it's West Virginia, not because of income.
Ding, 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 ding.
See, it's the richest county in West Virginia.
Oh, well, there you go.
Which is, sliding scale, bell curve.
We have $2. The rest of them have 50 cents.
Right. So that was the weekend before your break, your summer break began.
That was when we were at the Big Reading Air Show. So
that's before you went north to visit family.
Yeah, that was about when sort of like, because we had the big air show for my World War, then the Reading Air Show is, I think it's probably the largest in North America. I can't think of anything larger than it.
Oshkosh.
But this is just all World War II.
There's more World War II aircraft show up at Oshkosh.
Oh, okay. Right. But we have a couple thousand reenactors. And we get to the end of that weekend, you're out in the heat and the rain and whatever for 4 days. I get home, and then my school has decided that I should go to Hershey Park with the 8th graders. If you want one of my definitions of hell, it's amusement and theme parks. If you want to take it up a step further, it's an amusement or theme park filled with kids running amok, and it's 90 plus degrees outside. And I will make the point of showing up in a vest and pocket watch and a button down and my Outback and my Stetson, just because I will preserve some sense of my sanity. So I had to drive to Hershey that day, and then we had a nice lunch, and I found a nice spot in the shade out in the park, sat there reading, and the kids would occasionally find me and come up and chat with me, which was great. I think we only almost lost one. I swear we're allowed to lose 3, but nobody actually leaves them behind. Well, we have got done that Wednesday, and then I think I had 2 days to wrap stuff up here, and then I drove to Massachusetts on the Saturday. And then the Sunday, something, I think it was my middle nephew, he had a recital in late afternoon. Where he was singing solo, and we're getting notes from my sister that they decided to put all the piano recitals in with the singing recitals. So this thing that was supposed to be 45 minutes is now becoming 2 hours in a barely air conditioned recital hall of listening to everybody else's children play music badly. So that could actually be a new version of hell.
So it's just better or worse than Hershey Park?
I think Hershey Park was a breeze and a joy because I had lunch and a beer with it, and versus that recital thing my sister had to sit through. But then, and my nephew was at the end, so they had to sit through everything before they got to Wyatt.
This sounds terrible.
Yeah. No, it's like why I hate graduations and things like that. And my God, sitting through children's recitals for 2 hours straight stabbed me just repeatedly. Just in my eyes, my ears, whatever. Just don't make me do that. I mean, I didn't sit through my own graduation. So they end up having to hit the road late, and they had to have been exhausted. I know I was exhausted. My parents, so we have to take 2 vehicles to get all the kids in the 2 different vehicles because there's 4 nephews. If you're listening, hi boys. And
If you're not listening, shame.
Yes, shame. Well, they only heard there was a podcast recently.
Okay, so not shame yet.
Yeah. So
next episode.
I think I think we met in Providence, Rhode Island at 11 o'clock at night. It was like an hour and a half drive or 2-hour drive to get there, and then same back, and then get all the boys unpacked and all of their stuff unpacked, and then get them. And they range in ages from like 6 to 16. And they're freaking awesome. But so much chaos. And so we get everybody in bed, and I'm realizing that there is essentially no plan for the week that I can figure out. So this is when I go up there, I'm like, I'm a camp counselor. So I think the first thing, like last year when we did this, I realized that I think the only thought process going on as to food was to go to Dunkin' Donuts every morning. If you haven't noticed, I'm a Tim Hortons fan. Dunkin' Donuts has gone downhill, and I'm also a New Englander, so I used to be a Dunkin' Donuts fan. So if you think it's the greatest thing on earth, I'll fight you. And so I kept them from doing that by making sure we had enough everything for me to make pancakes and French toast and waffles and stuff every morning for them.
Excellent.
So
Dunkin' Donuts, where the coffee tastes bad and somehow the tea tastes like the coffee.
And the donuts have gotten half the size of what they used to be, and all of the breakfast sandwiches are nuked now rather than toasted. Dunkin' Donuts, you thought you knew sadness, and then you found it. They're going to sue us, aren't they?
I'm just stunned at how great that slogan is, though.
You thought you knew sadness, and then you found it?
Yes.
Yeah, I thought...
Episode title.
You thought you knew sadness, and then you found it. And just I'll put a picture of one little sad donut there. And so I think Monday we went to an adventure park.
You went to the beach one day, I think, didn't you?
Yeah, I think towards the end, we did the beach like once or twice.
I saw pictures from the beach.
Tuesday, we saw How to Train Your Dragon in 4DX. Have you ever heard of that?
Is that where like they squirt the water at you and shake the seed and throw confetti at you or something? Or?
Yeah, a guy comes through randomly and just hits you, although I don't know if that was part of the show or if it was just somebody trying to get it, who just getting their jollies by smacking people in the head. That didn't actually happen. Yeah, the seats move, and ours were worn out, so they're creaking as they move. So when they're in a ship, it was great because the ship's moving and the seats are creaking. When they're flying on the back of the dragon is not supposed to be creaking like a ship.
He has arthritis. I don't know. Like,
Arthritic, yeah, it's me. And yeah, it shoots water at your face on occasion. And so I eventually just put my hand over that because I'm wearing like glasses and 3D glasses on top of that. And then there's like water on them. And I will say, I loved the original and it was better than the original. This was somebody actually did a live action that was not something Disney destroyed.
oh, we talked about that because, we haven't fact-checked ourselves, but you thought it was actually not Disney, right?
It might not be Disney. I'm not totally sure. We might check that. You can look that because I think the next day was our Boston day. That was the one I was chatting with you about.
Yeah, I called you up and you were talking about that, and that sounded just fascinating, actually.
So what we did, and this is something like I put up pictures, and I just assumed that since I grew up with these things, everybody knew about the Swan boats. And so we have a tradition of making sure that each of the nephews gets on the Swan boats. So the twins have been on the Swan boats, the middle one's been on the Swan boats, but the youngest one had never been on the Swan boats. I also just assume that everybody in the world knows about a book called Make Way for Ducklings, but they don't know that either. So you have, in the center of Boston, you have, is it the Boston Commons or the Common Garden, or I don't know, I've totally screwed it up. But there's these beautiful parks in the center of Boston. One of them has lagoons in it. And it was I've forgotten their name, but it was in 1879. A member of a shipbuilding family had been over in Europe and seen something with swans and came back with the idea of creating swan boats that people could come down to the park and ride around on them. And so these are these long, flat, sort of skiff-like things with several rows of park benches on them, and a giant swan on the back that somebody sits inside of and pedals furiously to get you moving around the lagoons. That's normal to me. I did not realize that the rest of the universe did not know these things existed. I also sort of just assumed they existed somewhere else, but I don't know. You've been everywhere. Have you seen anything like that anywhere?
Where did I see something sort of like it? Baku, Azerbaijan.
Okay. Wow. Okay, so these are not as common as I thought.
Real quick, How to Train Your Dragon. The 2010 film was DreamWorks Animation.
Mm-hmm.
The 2025 film was again DreamWorks Animation, and then someone else. Not Disney.
Oh, wow. See, that's why it went so well. Because Disney's like, hey, The Lion King was wonderful. How can we completely destroy anybody's childhood memories? Let's make it live action. And let's get a whole bunch of soulless people who couldn't care less about the story or the characters and just make it sad. But you know what? People will pull that money out of their pockets because they just want that bit of their childhood back, and they're going to enjoy it no matter how bad it is.
And arbitrarily decided the lion will now be a bear.
What's that?
And just arbitrarily decided the lion's now a bear.
Yeah, anything like that. It's Disney. They are the.
And it's no longer in Africa. Now it's in Antarctica or something.
I wouldn't have been surprised if that would have made it interesting. They just killed the original by trying to make it real and just no. Because Disney will beat a dead horse until it's just pavement. I think that's their motto. We're coming up with slogans and mottos tonight.
Yeah. Beat a dead horse until it's glue.
Yeah, pass the glue. But to get to the swan boats, I was having nightmares the night before because I'm terrified of driving in Boston. Dad.
Oh, yeah, your nephews conveniently arranged to make this easy for you.
Yeah, unfortunately, one of my nephews, we had Chipotle the night before, and I believe one of them had something that he may be allergic to at this point. We didn't realize it, so the poor fellow was throwing up in the morning. So my mother stayed home with him, which the only blessing out of that was Merlin didn't have to drive in Boston and follow his dad around, because it's also impossible to keep up with Dad because I'm in a Jeep and he's in a BMW. And I don't drive that Jeep ridiculously fast.
He's driven in Boston a whole lot, his whole life, right?
Yeah, Dad's 80 and he grew up 15 minutes outside of Boston. And now if you haven't been to Boston, essentially, the roads are set up like this. I mean, D.C., you've got this grid network, and I still get lost on it and terrified and angry and end up on New York Avenue every freaking time I'm in D.C., which is why I don't drive in D.C. Boston, there's no predictability because what they did was they just released a bunch of cows and let them wander around. And eventually, when they wore enough ruts into the ground, they said, hey, that's a street. And then they'd have like another cow going another direction. They're like, hey, that's a street. Let's fill that with buildings. And then after a little bit after that, they're like, let's make this more confusing. We're going to make them all one way. In fact, we're going to make them one way in a way that only somebody who can solve the most complicated puzzles in the world, like my dad, the engineer, can actually drive and not give up hope. I mean, I've driven around Boston I've ended up thinking I knew where I was going and ended up in an alley with the front end of my car pointed at a dumpster, and I'm still looking at a street sign up on the side of the building going, how is this a street? And there's lovely places you can end up in Boston, like the Combat Zone and stuff like that. Or there's the one time when I was a kid where we got stuck on some street, and there was the homeless guy who was shouting at the bricks. and you had like concrete sidewalk, and there was like a little section of 2 feet of bricks, and then concrete sidewalk, and we sat there a long time, so he walked along and got to the bricks and screamed at them, and then the bricks behind him said something, so he'd go back to them and say something out and shout at them, and this went on for about a half hour, and as traffic slowly inched forwards, I realized that that poor man was going to explode, because as we got to the corner and I looked right, it went from concrete to just total brick
All bricks.
sidewalk around the corner of the building. I'm like, oh my God, we have to get out of here before he goes nuclear. So, and parking in Boston. If you can sacrifice a firstborn, that might help. I would have to say that maybe Dad sacrificed a kidney because he lost that one in the hockey fight or something like that. So we go down, and he's doing the hopeful circling of the Boston Common, thinking that possibly, maybe, we might find a spot. Now, the problem is we have a reduced number of spots. Why do we have a reduced number of spots? Because there's so many e-bikes for rent. And e-bikes, they have these stands set up for them that are like 3 or 4 car spots long. So we've lost due to e-bike stands, we've probably lost 10 car spots because of those. And then it's Boston, so somebody's filming something somewhere. So the film company is setting up a massive pizza thing for their crew, taking up another 6 car spots. Which point I start mentioning to the nephews that we're going to meet the mole people, which is concerning a little bit to the youngest one. And I have to explain that we will be going underground because it was in the 40s or the 50s where they just dug a giant pit. Removed the park, dug a giant pit, put the giant parking lot under it, then put the park back on top of it. And so after 3 loops around to avoid the mole people, we finally went underground. And got really lucky. We had a spot, although it's terrifying to drive under there because it's like 6'6" might be the clearance. And then Dad manages to choose a spot where there's giant poles that spread out towards the top, and somehow or other he wove the BMW SUV in around the flare from the pole, and we're all leaning out the windows looking at it, and his sensors are beeping, going pop, 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 pop. So give me 1 ping and 1 ping only. That's 200. We're about to hit something. And then there's all these little kiosks that you pop up in throughout the park. So you walk from your car, you go up some stairs, and then you just popped up magically somewhere in the park. And eventually we got to the Swan boats, and honestly, I was afraid there was going to be massive lines, but I think we had to just wait 10 minutes and then get on the Swan boat. And that's just, I'll put up pictures. They're pretty. And if you go to Boston, take the T. Don't drive in Boston. Just don't. It's not worth it.
You said take the T?
Yeah, the T, the train.
And then throw it into the harbor?
Shoot. I walked myself right into that one. You're going to take the T and throw it into the harbor.
It's the time of year. I mean,
yes. And again, if you want to get your Boston accent straight, you just want one phrase to work on. Is just park the car in Harvard Yard. That'll get you your Southie accent down. So what did we do? We did that, and then we went to the Science Museum, which was beautiful. Although I'll tell you, after our experiences in Chicago out with you guys.
Oh, with the Field Museum and then the Chicago Museum of Science and Industry?
Yeah, there's the Museum of Science and Industry, or is that what it's called, or is it something like that? I mean, I always thought the Boston Museum of Science was just this end-all and be-all, and then my parents moved to Chicago, and I saw that museum, and then we went out again this year. And so I'm in the Boston Museum of Science, and I'm like, okay, the robots are sort of fun. There's a bunch of things that haven't changed since I was a kid, and I'm 50, so that's not good.
So now it's no longer science, it's just a history museum?
Some of it. They did remove the thing that was the little box that was predicting that all of us by around this year would only have a 4-foot square living space to ourselves because we would have so overpopulated the planet. Obviously, somebody was off with their calculations on that one.
They took that exhibit's next to the flying car ones?
Yeah, which we never got, and that's a good reason. I mean, watch how people drive nowadays. You don't want them in the air.
Yeah. At a third axis? No.
Jesus. So we do from there. I think the rest of that week we went to the beach. I'm pretty sure we did something else, but I can't remember because
it's a nice rocky beach.
Yeah, it's the town of Duxbury is like, I'm surprised I think the only reason they haven't filmed Hallmark specials there, maybe they have and I just don't realize it, is because the town wouldn't want them there. It's a town that doesn't want tourism either. It just sort of sits there quietly doing its own thing. They have I believe, the longest wooden bridge in North America to go from the main section of town out to the beach that the town owns.
Okay. The reason I asked if it was rocky is I've never been to Boston, but my mom is from Cranston, Rhode Island.
Okay. Yeah.
And so still have family like in Providence.
Yeah.
And when I was a kid, my grandmother and my grandfather, they would have a summer rental in Narragansett.
Okay.
And I'd go up there sometimes and spend like a week with them.
Was that a rocky beach?
Yep.
That was like, I think...
So I just kind of assumed that all beaches in New England were rocky at this point.
Well, it's like Rockport. I think the beach is in Rockport, which is North Shore above Boston, because I had family up there. I think those are rocky beaches.
I mean, I think they dumped some sand in a couple spots to make it seem
Our
hospitable,
beach-
and then the rest of it is just gravel and jagged rocks.
Our beach the beach in Duxbury is sand, and then it got washed away, and then they discovered it's really weird. My dad, around the corner, like literally a quarter mile from my parents' house, is this area that used to be there's like 5 houses, and there was a bunch of hills. And somebody discovered that all those hills were just sand all the way down, and the beach needed sand. So Dad noticed that these trucks just started driving in and out of that neighborhood. And then he just started driving in there to see what they're doing. And they were literally just leveling everything. So you've got these little houses that used to be in these little valleys between these giant hills. And now they're on flat land. And then the developer, now that he's flattened everything, is now putting in these weird-looking McMansions. So you've got these McMansions, and then you've got this whole sort of
Next to the traditional
like,
New England
New
beach
England
cottages.
beach cottage type thing, which aren't anywhere near the beach. But, well, they were near the beach because the sand that they were near is now on the beach. So these trucks for like 2 years have just taken all the sand from that area
That's so wild.
and taken it out to the beach to rebuild the beach. So they've taken New England hills, flattened them, put a neighborhood there, and the beach is now built up from all the sand that was. It's weird just knowing that you could be sitting there looking at rolling hills, and they could just all be completely sand. And so they've rebuilt their beach with that. And then down at the end of the beach is this little village called the Gurnet that was this fishing village, which I learned this time. I can only go there in the off season because they have a guard during the summer. My nephew Tripp is a wonderful artist, and he's really he loves drawing lighthouses. And I was like, we are going to the Gurnet. We are going to go into that little village that looks like it's out of the Popeye movie, honestly. And which I still have nightmares about. Did you ever see the Popeye movie?
No, I've not.
That's a weird one. So back on track. So Tripp has wanted to go to the lighthouse, and the lighthouse, it's the Gurnet is built up, and the lighthouse that's there sits in the remains of an old fort from the 18th century. And you can stand up there, watch the harbor seals play, and look across at Plymouth, Massachusetts. So we slowly drove down the beach. Because Dad's got an oversand pass. We drove down this road, and we get there, and there's this nice young African fellow in the shed who comes out, and I walked up. I said to him, I said, we're not allowed to walk up and look at the lighthouse, are we? He says, do you know anybody in town? I said, no. He says, no, I'm sorry. And, so we failed. And I've realized that the times I've been up there have to have been like Thanksgiving and spring break when they didn't have enough people to warrant there being a guard keeping people out of town.
That's because the water was still 31.5 degrees or something.
I know. So, and I like cold, so it didn't register that those were cold times of years. But yes, this is a neat little village out there.
Because in July, the water's only 35 degrees or something.
Yeah, probably. There was one time I was out there at the lighthouse, and I'm watching the harbor seals, and you get them, they'll get up on top of a rock, and they'll form this sort of like happy banana shape and just balance there. And there was one wandering around being an asshole. And so you'd see some harbor seal happily basking in the sun because it's probably like 35 degrees out or something, and I'm not noticing. And then all of a sudden you see them fall off the rock. And there's some other harbor seal that are just bobbing, looking pleased with himself, and then he disappears. And a little ways away, there's some other harbor seal just happily being a banana and basking, and then he gets knocked off his rock, and that stupid little asshole is there bouncing away like, look what I did. He never actually got on a rock. He just went around knocking the other ones off of rocks because he found it fun. Yeah. So that was wonderful. And then what did I do? I came back here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We came back here. The weekend started okay.
Yeah, as we came out, I hot shot it all the way down, dropped off the nephews, and got down here Saturday night. And Sunday, Tasha and I had a nice day antiquing because Tasha luckily was headed to Ohio, and because they got to miss what happens. We're out at dinner in Gettysburg when I see the power's out, and we haven't had real power outages around here. I mean, like maybe it goes out for 6 hours or something.
Right. Well, we talk about the barn, but you're in a rural county, but you're in the middle of the town.
Yeah, we're not a barn on the end of some rural road where we're going to be the last people the power company gets to because there's one of me in within 100 miles.
No, you're like 150 foot from the post office, the bank.
I can see the post office up the alley from my barn.
Yeah, you're right in the middle. You really are right. I mean, you could a good solid rock throw to what would be the town square, except it's just a traffic light now.
Yeah, so whenever we do lose power, it's short. So what I got to come back to was Sunday, then it came back Monday for a little bit, and then went out again. So it's Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and this was that heat dome.
Was it Monday night the power went out?
No, it was Sunday night.
Sunday night.
Sunday night, then it came back on for a bit, but it was weird. Like I couldn't turn on, if I turned on 2 air conditioners, the whole building, the lights would go weird. Then Monday morning, my buddy Kim and I are working in the shop and the power goes down. And that's when all hell breaks loose, because that's when we start going through generator after generator after generator.
So for those who are not in the region, the substation had a transformer catastrophically fail. Not catastrophic like the one at the other end of the county. We'll get to that one in a moment. This one failed. No longer able to transmit power to town and in this whole region of the county. The other one catastrophically failed in a much more colorful fashion.
It was like I sent pictures to a customer of mine so that he knew I wasn't lying to him. Of the two because they tried to backfeed the local electric cooperative because the main substation had gone down, tried to backfeed through and around 2 other substations, which subsequently went up in flames.
Literally, fire.
So, I mean, we're talking like bright red flame creeping outside the fence, black smoke billowing up into the sky, flames into nighttime. And by the way, ours already went up a couple months ago when we woke up to weird alien noises at like 1 a.m, and it was our bedroom windows are on the opposite side of the building from the substation, which is a couple miles north of us, and the sky was lit up so bright it was lighting up our bedroom.
There's a weird glow. You had some pictures. There were some pictures of it. I saw.
Yeah. It was making weird noises, and I was like, "Oh, we're being abducted by aliens."
And quick fun fact: if you're not familiar with these large transformers, they're oil cooled. So when they're on fire, that's an oil fire. It's basically Deepwater Horizon up the road from you.
Oh yeah. Oh, that makes so much sense for all the billowing clouds of black smoke then.
Yeah, it was.
So we went through this because we've got 4 cats and the window, and there's not a lot of great cross ventilation in the house section of the barn. So we're trying to get one generator up, which turns out was not maintained the way I expected it was going to be maintained. So I think Kim and I probably fussed with that for 2 or 3 hours before we gave up. And the absolutely wonderful Paul Ray, who may be listening to this. Paul, hi. And if Paul's listening, Brian's probably listening too. So hi, Brian. Paul brought down was it a P96 or something?
Something like that. It's a World War II generator.
A big World War II industrial-looking olive drab generator in its military trailer. All 10 kilowatts of it.
It's powered by a Jeep engine, and it's about 6 feet long.
Yeah. We set that up next to the windows of the building, and Alan and Sharon, Paul's parents, came down. I didn't realize all this was happening, but there was this full plan of we are wiring this into the building. And as I'm looking at this, I'm like, how are we going to get that to the plug? And then I'm looking at the condition of my windows in the building, and I'm like, oh, the glazing's just come off the windows. By the way, that's what on old windows holds the glass in. So I just took a penknife and picked the glazing off, and we just, I think Kim just pulled one of the panes out.
Oh, you took one pane out? Okay.
Yeah. We pulled the pane out of one of the windows. Alan Ray went and rewired a plug for my compressor onto this massive cable. So we had this monstrosity, this wonderful, beautiful World War II monstrosity sitting outside running, sounding as industrial as can be, with big cable going. And so we had, that went about 24 hours. I gave it a couple to a few hour break in the morning. The neighbors were ecstatic because they had the refrigerator plugged into it. We're babysitting another neighbor's garage with a different generator in it because he has 3 freezers in there filled with meat. By the way, once again, this is the epic heat wave. So like Monday, I got to the evening and I'd had an English muffin for breakfast, and that was it. And I'd just been trying to stay hydrated. And what had happened was the town opened this office, their offices, which have a big Kohler generator the size of 2 Volkswagen buses, back to the beginning,
Okay.
and as a cooling station. And there was a lemonade truck set up, and there was a guy from, I think it was Wingers or something like that. It's a junk hauling company. He was out there with a pop-up and a grill, and he was serving everybody free burgers and hot dogs. There was a cup. I put $10 in the cup. So it was like my first real meal of the day was 2 burgers from just this wonderful fellow who heard that nobody was serving food down at the cooling station. So we went and bought a couple hundred burgers and a pile of hot dogs and took his grill down there and just started feeding people. And for all the living hell of that week, I mean, the World War II generator went down the following day. Then Brian Cessna came by and loaned us a Turo generator. Thank you, Brian. The mayor was calling for food trucks to come in, and businesses were giving these food trucks that came in. We were often giving them like $300, $400, $500 and just saying feed people for free until you run out. And you're following the town Facebook page, and nurses and doctors are organizing themselves into groups to go and check on all of the elderly who are stuck in their houses in this 100+ degree heat wave. So the town pulled together. The town was amazing. MetEd, if you've got children listening, cover their ears. MetEd can go fuck themselves. I will refrain from getting too far into that. In fact, maybe John Linder, our editor, our producer, he and I can get roaring drunk one night and record an episode that'll just go in between episodes about how we feel about the executives at MetEd. Because what they did was, for 4 days, they sent us constant text messages.
Roughly every 2 hours, right?
For 12 hours, it was every 2 hours. And the text messages all said something along the lines of, power outage, crews about to be dispatched, equipment damage. And they always said the same thing. And then it would say power will return, and it would just, and they would just give you a time. And then there was a point where we thought they were getting close, because all of a sudden it was like, it was going to be in 2 hours rather than 8 hours away. And then 2 hours later, they changed it to another 2 hours. And then 2 hours later, they changed it to another 2 hours. It was just like, they were like, you know what? We haven't inflicted enough psychological damage on these people. Let's taunt them for 12 hours straight. And then we finally get to the point where we just, I was at the gas station in town. I was talking to one fellow, because we're both there filling up gas cans for generators. He says, I'd rather just not know. He says, I just want the phone calls and the text to stop. He says, and then it's just like Christmas when it comes back on, rather than this constant torment. And so the night the power comes, Wednesday night, the power comes back on. I was up having amazing pizzas with John and Bonnie, and we were discussing how much we love MetEd. And by the way, it was John who made the pizzas. And finally, the neighbor Jason sends me a note and says, power's back on. And I stood out in the alley mind-boggled seeing down the alley that the barn was turned on, then the next building was turned on, and then it would just dial back to the barn again. It was like they were just trying. And eventually, we're back on John and Bonnie's porch, and the lights come on, and we're just sitting there going, dude. But just to mess with us more, they couldn't be done. On the Thursday, they initiate calls to just about everybody in town. Not a text message, but a call. The call at 12:30 is, the power is going to be shut off at 1 o'clock for 2 hours. Think about what we've just been through for 4 days. If they say they're going to shut off the power for 2 hours, that means we're probably not going to see power until Monday. So they did that, and then they didn't shut off the power. And then they initiated rolling blackouts in one section of town without warning anybody. And then my power eventually went out at 10 o'clock at night, at which point I just accepted the inevitable, and thank God it came back on 10 minutes later because I once again figured it wouldn't be on until Monday. So if anybody from MetEd ever listens to this, who is in the higher echelon of administration or anything, I'm going to refrain from the rant that I would just roll into about what I think you can do to yourselves in this special, special place in hell they have just for people like you. To the tech guys who are fixing everything, you guys are freaking awesome. So that's why, because I'm still realizing we're recording on the Wednesday after the week when the power went out. It feels like I've been through a month at this point.
So what's incredible to me, I would say on the technical side, it's impressive. They had to bring in portable transformers that are oversized loads, both here and in the north end of the county. They had to bring 2 of them in from basically a day's drive away. So on the technical side, they knew they had a day just to even get the equipment here. And then, we're talking about transformers and high voltage and transformers that are the size of semi-trucks, and then cables that are as big as your arm. It's a major process. So the guys on the ground had to have known this is going to be 2 days, 3 days. But it was a complete abdication of their PR entirely to just let the automated system just keep doing the every 2 hour thing. And no one ever actually came on to the press or came on, spoke to the mayor's office and said, here's the situation. It is going to be 3 days.
Yeah, it was like nobody spoke to I think you and I talked on the Wednesday.
Right. Yeah, I called you
and
up.
It was only sometime Wednesday afternoon that somebody from MetEd finally said something to the press. Because, and last I knew, there was somebody had sent all the text messages to a state senator who was pressing MetEd to do anything. But you know what? MetEd is there to make a profit, and that's why our substation, I'm sure, was not set up for any sort of load study of what could happen. And I'm sure they're making their profit. They're the same people who keep coming up with the completely insane billing where they go, I've lived here 6 years and suddenly they want a deposit for my electricity that I know I'm never going to get back. But somebody out there is making their bonus. And there's a special place in hell for them. But Volkswagen buses are nice. I like them. They make me happy. And Swan boats. If you go to Boston, you got to see the Swan boats.
I'm really curious now because I've never been to Boston.
Boston's awesome. It's just it's the Faneuil Hall is this amazing food there.
And I noticed so many incredible pieces of history in Boston. I'm going to be like, no, Swan boats. I need to see the Swan boats. Yeah. That's what I'm going to be like.
Well, they're part of the history.
That's what I'll be harping on. I'll be like, I need to see the Swan boats. I'm not worried about the Revolution. Swan boats.
And you got to go to the North End because that's the Italian sector. There's so much to see that's absolutely wonderful in Boston. So,
if you want to hear more Boston stories,
yeah.
become a Substack paid subscriber.
Oh God, yeah, yes, because I could do whole things like.
Well, you have the one that's already up there.
Yeah, actually, yeah, you're right. I forgot there is the whole. If you're a paid subscriber, you have access to.
There's a bonus episode out there already.
The time that my school, in their infinite wisdom, thought that they should take us camping on an island completely inhabited by skunks in Boston Harbor. Harbor, and then release us into the North End under our own auspices.
Your own visit to the Italian section.
And that was interesting too. So
We'll stop at that.
yeah, so paying subscribers, you get to see that, and we'll come up with some more stuff for paying subscribers. And for the 2 current paying subscribers, thank you. We really appreciate it. It's awesome. Anybody
I
else?
think the Merlin and John Met Ed rant will have to be a paid one.
That, yeah, you know what? Okay. And I'm sure John, since he's editing this, will hear me say that. But yeah, we'll have to do that. So anything else, or is that us for the evening?
I think that's pretty good. Feeling
Yeah.
good, letting all that out.
Yeah,
About,
I feel better now. It's still going to take me a while to process the fact that was 2 weeks and not a month and a half.
I considered just starting up the podcast and talking about the Volkswagen stuff, and then just turning the lights out and just letting Merlin go, thinking the power went out again.
If you hit the main on the building, I would have just sat here. It would
But I
have been
couldn't
really
do that
quiet.
because then we wouldn't have been able to record. So I would have had to do. I would have
right.
had to do the prank we used to pull on the power gen mechanic when I was in Afghanistan.
What was that?
We would turn off the breaker to his room.
Oh, the poor guy.
Site manager yelled at us for that because he would come running out thinking the generator had gone down.
Oh, no, the poor guy.
Yeah,
Oh,
it was,
God, okay.
that was mean.
That's horrible.
Billy yelled at us for that.
And he should have.
Yep.
All right. So, as always, thank you for listening to us ramble. We know you have many other options like watching paint dry or jogging and staring into space or listening to ducks quack. I like ducks. But you listen to us and spend time with us, and we appreciate that.
Yes, we thank you. And feedback. We'd love to know. Do you like the deep dives? Do you like the rambles? Do you like the rambling deep dives?
I've already gotten some feedback, which was thank you for the new microphones. That was really good feedback.
Yes.
And also,
I thank us for that too. 'Cause
yeah,
I listen to each episode before I make my little post about them. So I hear what you hear.
and then on top of that, once again, as always, if we've said something that reminds you of a story, if you've been to Boston and been on the Swan boats, or there's some other part of Boston that strikes your fancy, write in. Email us at merlinsbarn@gmail.com, or you can drop us a note on the Instagram, or you can contact us through the Substack. And we would really, really, truly love to get a bunch of listener emails together and read them and respond to them.
Give us your rambles.
Yeah, give us your rambles. You've listened to ours. Other than that, everybody take care. And again, thank you for listening.
Good night.
Testing 1 2 3. Testing 1 2 3. My elbow hurts.
Are we live?
Sort of as live as you can be when it's just recording it, not before a studio audience.
Or is it Memorex? Is that the old commercial?
Oh, what was that? It was something or Memorex, wasn't it? Though it's like,
Yeah. I thought was it live?
is it
Memorex?
Maybelline? No, that's a totally different commercial. Where's the beef? No,
Yeah.
that's
Same era. We're
that's
in
the wrong one too.
we're all in the same time period though. Because Memorex, that was the cassette tapes, right?
I think so. I'm not sure.
Or is that the BASF? We don't make things; we just make things better.
I was looking at old commercials the other day just to show somebody. Because if you're not from have you ever heard of Prince Spaghetti?
I don't know that one.
Yeah, Prince Spaghetti is a New England thing.
Okay.
I don't know why that company has not expanded beyond New England. And in the early 70s, they had an ad with this Italian mother in the North End in Boston shouting for her son. And he's running through all the people and stuff to get there because it's Wednesday, and Wednesday is Prince Spaghetti Day. And that just got so beaten into my head as a child because the trucks drove around, and they said, and then there were giant trucks that said, Wednesday is Prince Spaghetti Day on the side. And so until I die, in my head, Wednesday will be Prince Spaghetti Day. When was the last time I had Prince Spaghetti? Oh, God, I was probably 16 or something and still lived in it, because I don't think anybody, since I've come back since my family moved back there, I don't think anybody in my family has made a spaghetti dinner.
Really? You'd think just out of nostalgia they would do that, right?
Yeah. So I think, you know what, the next time I'm in New England, I think the goal is I have to find Prince Spaghetti and bring it back. Should we see how that sounds?
Yeah, let's check that out.